Now on 4, and only on 4, the answers to the questions you may have been asking since the beginning of The Prisoner.
This is the pattern for the future.
The whole Earth as the village, yes.
That is my hope.
Wipe it. Start again. Well, it isn't. Are you recording? Well, do it. I want to start again right away. Good. I don't want any complications this time. We can't go on like this forever. And I don't want to be disturbed. For the last time. Identification. File on the prisoner. Opened September 1966, still open January 1984 after successive failed attempts at closure. Purpose of this session to close this file for good. There! Hold it right there! Now.
A lot of people are curious about what lies behind your resignation. You had a brilliant career. Your record is impeccable. They want to know why you suddenly left.
He is utterly devoted and loyal. Is this a man that suddenly walks out?
And I didn't walk out. I resigned. Why did he resign?
Why did you resign?
I resigned because for a very long time, just a minute.
No. Not just a minute. That game is coming to an end, my boy. Why did you resign? And why make a program like The Prisoner?
What was your question?
It's insoluble for man or machine.
What was it?
W-H-Y. Question mark.
Why?
Why?
Precisely. But not insoluble. Not this time round. It can't be.
Gating and confidential. Why did you resign?
Why, indeed. McGowan, Patrick Joseph, actor, born New York, 1928. Early ambition to become a Roman Catholic priest. Finds his way into Sheffield Playhouse and Rep. Appears in Orson Welles' stage production of Moby Dick. Winner of Best Television Actor Award for his role in The Greatest Man in the World and the Theatrical Award for his portrayal of Ibsen's Brand in the same year. The man who was to become television's highest paid professional actor. Not a cooperative man.
I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, debriefed, or numbered. My life is my own.
Private. Not a willing talker. Difficult to pin down.
Interesting fellow.
He's an old friend who never gives up.
Neither do I. I can't afford to. Not now.
If you insist on living a dream, you may be taken for mad.
I like my dream.
Then you are mad.
Press comment, 1983-84. Is The Prisoner, that great television enigma, going to make more sense this time around? Finally leaves us no further enlightened. You can torture yourself all day and night and still not find the answers. What is it all about? Existential nightmare, parable, fantasy, or thriller? Why? Why do they still watch it?
Let's start at the very beginning, which is a very good place to start. I had been doing a whole series of plays for television, for BBC, Granada, at that time Rediffusion. They were excellent plays, and one of them was a thing called The Big Knife by Clifford Odets. in which I played an aging movie star. And Luke Grade, then, now Lord Grade, saw it. They were looking around for someone to star in a new series that they were preparing, a thing called Danger Man. And I got to meet with Mr. Grade. As I said, it's all there if they want.
Now, Lew Grade, head of the large production company ACC, chairman of ATV, impresario, and one of the most significant single influences in independent television production since the 50s. But why was Danger Man such a success?
Well, it was mainly the personality of Patrick McGowan, and also due to the fact that we were determined to make it a fast-moving series, because it doesn't matter what you say about American action adventure series, they do have pace and gloss, and we had that in Danger Man.
Every government has its Secret Service branch. America, its CIA, France, Deuxième Bureau, England, MI5. NATO also has its own. A messy job, that's when they usually call on me or someone like me. Oh yes, my name is Drake. John Drake.
I tried as much as possible to make him an enigmatic character, hoping that you weren't quite sure what he was going to do next. His principal weapon was his wits against the protagonist.
Note: Patrick McGowan makes changes at the very start to the character of John Drake and plays him how he wants. The Danger Man formula works, and the spy with no gun and no girls becomes Britain's favorite hero. It is a significant national and international success, and McGowan becomes Britain's leading man.
I didn't resign in any way. I just decided that I enjoyed doing Danger Man, but I thought that we'd done enough of them, and the ideas started to get a bit thin. And before it sort of got thinner and thinner and thinner till there was nothing there, I thought it was a good idea to stop. And I went to Luke Grade and said that would be about enough. And then discussions went on about other things.
He came to see me, showed me the photographs of the beautiful place in Wales, told me the idea. I said, let's go.
What was the germ of the idea? How long had it been in my head? Well, it was in my mind from the very early days, since maybe about 7 years old, the individual against the establishment, the individual against the bureaucracy, the individual against so many laws that were all confining. The church, for instance, it was almost impossible to do anything which was not some form of sin. I can remember precisely. We had 2 weeks vacation for the 39 half hours of Danger Man in North Wales. And one of the locations was at a place called Portmeirion. And I had to do a shot out of one of the Danger Man episodes, driving in. I remember it was a bronze Aston Martin, and I drove it down this little street in the village and stopped and had to do a scene. And it's the first time that I'd seen Portmeirion. I thought it was a miraculous sort of place, beautiful. And already in my head, I was astonished that I'd never seen this in a film. I don't know if it could ever use it. This is a setting which could be beautiful enough, mysterious enough, and confining enough to be the base for our man in isolation.
Don't you know about the village?
I'm here to ask the questions.
That's what number 2 used to say.
Number 2?
Chairman of the village.
What village?
It's
Scott, you don't know, do you? The village is a place where people turn up. People who have resigned from a certain sort of job, have defected, or have been extracted. The specialized knowledge in their heads is of great value to one side or the other. Are you sure you haven't got a village here?
Irrelevant. What we must find out here is where was this village supposed to be in the prisoner?
The Baltic. 30 miles from the Polish border. Somewhere about here.
Coast of Morocco, southwest of Portugal and Spain.
Right there. Impossible. Note, the village seems to be anywhere and everywhere. Possibly doesn't exist at all. Strike that for now. Let's keep to the facts. Jack Champion, art director on The Prisoner, senior draftsman at Ealing Studios in their heyday, Kind Hearts Coronets, The Lavender Hill Mob, art director on countless others, as well as working on Danger Man. After The Prisoner went on to design Modesty Blaze for Joseph Losey.
I was, at the time, I was completing a film at Pinewood Studios and just about to go on holiday when Patrick McGowan and David contacted me, said they'd like me to come and have a chat with them about doing a continuation of Danger Man, which was, they were toying with the idea of calling it The Prisoner. They had some scripts already completed, about 4, I should imagine, and I went down, met them at MGM.
I only got that bit because I'm the only one still young enough to walk. You know that, yeah?
Hello, Dave. No, I was just saying to the folks that when I was first approached, to do The Prisoner, I was just about going on holiday after finishing a film at Pinewood.
The man with Champagne is David Tomblin. Ranked as probably the best first assistant director in the world today, has worked on countless feature films such as Raiders, Jedi, Gandhi, Never Say Never Again. Key man in the setting up of The Prisoner, on which he was producer, occasional writer, and director. McGowan's business partner in Everyman Films, the company set up with great finance to make The Prisoner.
We met in Port Miriam when we were doing Danger Man. In, I think, 1960, something like that. Black and white, half-hour Danger Man, I think.
I wasn't on that one.
No, you weren't. You were too young for that. Patrick came in one day and said, I've seen Lou, we've got the money, we've got the series. I said, oh, great. I said, what series is that? He said, well, you know what we've talked about all these years and so on and so forth. So he said, write the first story. So I said, well, I've never written before. He said, well, we better start writing.
If you remember, when I first came on the scene, you and Pat had already got a sort of a visual feeling about the place, not in detail, of what the set should be to suit the...
Well, it was influenced very heavily by Port Miriam itself, wasn't it? So,
yes, but Port Miriam, as you know, is Mediterranean architecture, whereas when we came indoors, it was all way out, futuristic, almost going back to the days of Fritz Lang, in M, and then in the control room when the eye going round, Big Brother watching all the time. We had our preliminary chat. I collected an art department around me. We prepared some drawings. And then, if you remember, we came up to Port Miriam, showed you the working drawings and 1 or 2 sketches for the main sets, like the living room, control room, and so forth, the main sets, which go right through the epic. And then went back to MGM, and then we really had to get cracking. The crucial thing about it was we didn't have armies of people working. You were up at Port Miriam at the time, so you didn't know. But to do all that clever electrical mechanism and the control panel, which is all done like they do TV cameras, TV studios now, everything done on the sort of almost like a memory bank.
Yeah.
That was all set up virtually with one bloke at MGM. Mind you, quite a bloke.
I remember his timesheet well.
Question. Writing a television series. How does one get the kind of material one wants of sufficiently high standard and locate the kind of writers capable of producing something a little out of the ordinary, something different from the kiss, kiss, bang, bang nonsense being produced by television as a staple diet?
George Markstein, who was brought in as script supervisor, and George also brought to us something that none of us had the right experience to garner. He brought writers with a particular bent of mind. They weren't danger man writers, none of them were. They needed this sort of stylistic, futuristic thing. And he knew a number of them and brought them in, and I'm grateful to him.
Where is it? Ah, here he is. George Markstein. For the record, had worked with British intelligence, moved to journalism, primarily crime reporting, then into television where he worked for programs such as This Week and Court Martial. When McGowan took greater control over Danger Man, Markstein was brought in as script editor. Espionage was his speciality.
So I sat down at the typewriter one day and typed a couple of pages. They were about a secret agent, and after all, Drake had been a secret agent, who suddenly quits without any apparent reason, as McGowan had quit without any apparent reason, and who is put away. And because I had been doing some research into the Special Operations Executive, and I had come across a curious establishment that existed in Scotland during the war, into which they put recalcitrant agents, and who was more recalcitrant than McGowan.
Later, but now, music.
He can make even the act of putting on his dressing gown appear as a gesture of defiance.
Well, the story editor is the key man in any series. He is the man in whose hands is the ethos of the series, the spirit of the series. And it is his job to cast the writers and the authors the way a director casts the actors and the stars.
I did find that when we interviewed writers, no matter how much detail you gave them, they came back with an entirely different story, only because the series was so different. So, in the end, I think detailed story outlines was the way to approach it, and that's what we did. And so we kept it in the sort of style.
Writer, where's the writer? Writer. Yes, the writer. Are you asleep out there? Griefer. Louis Griefer. Writer of the episode The General, and at that time, script editor for ATV.
I remember again a little puzzled. It wasn't a question of him trying to get out or to find out who number one was, or there was no specific area for him. Normally, the motivation of the principal character is the clearest thing in a series. Now, what was odd about this, in my opinion, was that the motivation was a little obscure. It was all rather vague.
Well, who's number 6 is no mystery. I mean, he was a secret agent called Drake who quit. So, I mean, that was no mystery. They asked who number 1 might be. Of course they asked who number 1 might be, and I said that number 1 is the man in charge.
It's a bit highfalutin. I don't think George ever talked about it in Kafkaesque terms, but there was a Kafkaesque quality about it. There was about a man imprisoned by something he didn't know, so automatically you were in that sort of area. But at the same time, and this is that's why the thing was a little odd, at the same time it was a straightforward adventure series. And when you think of what happened to it subsequently, I think that it's because it was a little, a bit of each, that it suddenly took on this very interesting aspect. I wasn't privy to these, but it was pretty well known that there was a slight tension going on between George on the one side and Pat on the other. Pat kept introducing things like massive balloons, you know, and all sorts of gimmicks, which I thought were great, frankly. And if you look on it in retrospect, I think that's what made the series quite memorable. It could have been, had George had his way, a very good adventure series. I think what Pat did was make it much more than that. Much more than that.
And here he is, our very own Epstein.
Can I help?
We're not quite sure what it means.
It means what it is.
Brilliant. It means what it is. Brilliant.
I didn't see any rushes, but I saw finished episodes. And I liked them very much, but I kept on asking him what's going to happen in the end. And he said, don't worry, there will be an ending.
Oh, yes, there'll be an ending, all right. That's why I'm here. That's why we're all still here. Let me try something else. Oh, yes, the Prisoner Appreciation Society. December 1983. 6 of 1 meet in London for one of their walkabouts, a tour of major locations used in the series.
We have produced really as much as one can on every level of the prisoner. The basic paraphernalia, from being able to sell rover balloons to those who want them, to providing maybe 1 or 2 solutions to 1 or 2 very difficult questions surrounding the prisoner. But what still remains for the individual viewer is, what was it all about? We've had a throughput of over 6,000 members in 6 of 1 over the 7 years it's been going. We've had over 30,000 letters inquiring after the prisoner from people who just wanted to know some background but didn't necessarily join. There are probably 30,000 different answers to the question, what is the prisoner all about?
I'll just fill you in with what's going to happen.
I'm a student in philosophy and physics at Liverpool University, and I find it very interesting to combine my philosophy with the concepts of the prisoner, because I think each episode conveys a philosophical message, and the series as a whole is a remarkable illustration of the struggles of the individual in society.
It means so much, it's so difficult to sum it up. In what number 6 does in the village, his reaction to being imprisoned there, his attempts to escape, I see it all reflected in one's own life.
It just sums up life in a 17-part television series, which nothing else ever has, as far as I'm concerned.
6 of 1 also organized regular conventions in Portmeirion. Last year, one of their members, Max Horer, established a prisoner information center and souvenir shop in the village in what was number 6's original house. He operates it throughout the tourist season.
The reason I'm here is that I felt for some time that there should be more here in Portmeirion connected with the prisoner. There only used to be numbered penny farthing badges. That's all there was until about a year or so ago. Then when I came here, I managed to bring a lot more with me on behalf of 6 of 1, the Prisoner Appreciation Society. Of course, there's quite a lot of symbolism in the prisoner. For example, the big white balloon called Rover. I think a lot of people would say...
Stop the interviews. It still doesn't explain how these things happened, how it all works and fits together. Don Chaffee, director of several big pictures such as Jason and the Argonauts, 1 million years BC. Like other members of the team, also regularly worked for television. Directed most of the early prisoner episodes and all the location work in Portmeirion.
I was about to do another feature over in Ireland, and Pat suddenly came along and said he'd got this idea, and I said, great, good, take it, it's fine, do what you like with it. And he said, I'd like you to direct the first episodes to sort of set a style or whatever you like. And I said, great, no. And I just refused point blank, and I went off over to Ireland, and Pat and my wife, my late wife and daughter, we were all good friends at that time, and we still are, but I mean, we're friendly family-wise, and so he grabbed my daughter and gave her these scripts and said, get your father to read these. And my daughter kept on telling him. Finally, she read them herself. And she came up with the, she said, you've got to read these. She said, people are just going to, she said, they're compulsive, they're going to be compulsive viewing. And she said, I reckon you'll have 11 million people loving to hate you every Sunday night if you make these. It was so intriguing me, I started to read them and called Pat, and Pat came across to Ireland where I was directing a picture with Don Murray. And I agreed to do it. Pat's not an easy person, as you probably know, to get on with, but at least he knows what he wants, and I have sort of some clear-cut ideas too. And so, you know, by sitting down, and there were some bitter arguments, but that's not here nor there. I mean, out of it came what I think is probably one of the best television series made, you know.
Yes, but what about those first location problems? Like the big white balloon, Rover. Rover, yeah.
Rover, yes. Rover was designed, it was a very intricate piece of machinery which was supposed to do practically everything, go underwater as in submarine, come from underwater as hovercraft onto the sand, and if necessary, climb the side of a house. It came the Tuesday morning when we had to work with it. It was still a very laboring piece of machinery. It went into the water and for some reason didn't appear to have any desire to emerge. So we sort of left it there and had to think of other things. So we're standing there and we're due to shoot sequences which contain our Rover character, this menacing thing, and we didn't have one. And we're pondering what to do, and we're looking up at the heavens and thinking. I was standing there in this little street in Port Merion with Bernard Williams, our production manager, and we were both looking up, racking our brains, and we saw this little white thing way up in the sky. And I said, what's that? And he said, it's a balloon of some kind, or it's sort of balloon. He said, probably meteorological. There's a station nearby somewhere. So I said, can you get any of them? And he said, I'll try, and he went away.
Note, one of the most striking and memorable images ever seen in a television series is the result of on-location desperation due to the failure of an original prop. I'm beginning to like this. Yes, now, Pat Jackson, veteran filmmaker, began in the GPO film unit in the 30s, met McGowan 10 years before The Prisoner when he gave him his first screen test ever, directed 4 episodes of The Prisoner, including Schizoid Man.
Man in a Suitcase, I think it was. And David Tomlin came over to see me, and I think, I can't quite remember. I think Pat asked me to come over to Wells Street, MGM. He said, I got a proposition that might interest you. Then I went over to see him, and he showed me the location stills of Port Merion and the rough outline of the story, which wasn't absolutely clear then. And he said, would you be interested? I said, yes, I think I would, Pat. Very interested indeed. Then I got involved in the Danger Man thing, in the Man in a Suitcase thing. And then he sent me a script. And as one does when one sent a script through the post, you hope it's going to be nice and that you can do it, and all conscious you can do it. And I tore it in the envelope and started to read Schizoid Man. And I read it through in one session. I was absolutely thrilled. I didn't know what the hell it was all about, mind you, but I thought it was fascinating. Absolutely wonderful idea. Very interesting. I rang him up at once and said, Pat, I'd love to do it when? And so we, the schedule was worked out. It was about 10 days' time. So down to Wells Street I went for the first day's shooting. There was Pat, ready. And of course one had to have one's plan worked out. We had to get about 5.5 to 6 minutes cut film every day. So you were doubling the cut film that you would do in a feature, yet the quality didn't have to drop at all. It had to look as good as a feature, even though we had to get twice as much. And off we went. And that was successfully done, and then I did the other 3 for him. One took the script, you read it, analysed it, worked out your shooting plan, how the artists were to move, and then you got on the floor and quickly blocked in the scene, and everybody was happy and comfortable, off you went. And then the usual cover shots. And no, I had no brief at all. You just analysed it as a conductor would a score, and off you go. Oh, I'd love to be able to say, yes, I saw the significance of this series, and it was going to be the prestige series, and you could get a PhD at university writing a treatise on it. Absolute rubbish. I didn't at all. I took it as a job, and I was thankful that one could do it with conscience and do it with pride, and think this is a fascinating project.
I was more interested, really, in the fact that this seemed now, from what I could tell, to to be an opportunity to present a rather more offbeat idea. And I'd had this idea about what was happening to education, and what is happening to education, frankly, that it is becoming a rote thing.
My apologies, ladies. I would like to say a brief word about speed learning. It is quite simply the most important, most far-reaching, most beneficent development in mass education since the beginning of time. A marriage of science and mass communication, which results in the abolition of years of tedious and wasteful schooling. A 3-year course indelibly impressed upon the mind in 3 minutes. Impossible?
No, not impossible. Not now. Look what they did to me.
What was the Treaty of Adrianople?
September 1829.
Wrong. I said what, not when.
What was the Treaty of Adrianople? Wrong. I said what, not when. No, it doesn't matter. Of course I'm all right.
By some indefinable quality, and it did represent an aspect of the 60s which is not so popular, the paranoia of the 60s. It seemed to me that that was a period when a lot of people were realizing that they were alienated from political forces. The bomb was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and while the Beatles were singing about love and that sort of thing, politics were getting rather nastier and nastier, and people felt less and less able to control them. Well, again, I have to be very careful, because it wasn't the sort of ideas that were being discussed in The Prisoner, but I think that was the ambience, that was the pressure, and that was the sort of thing that Pat was aware of, not as a politician, which he's not, but as a human being and a creative person. He was aware of these forces, and that's what came into the... there was a certain amount, I mean, not madness, I wouldn't say madness, but there was a certain schizoid aspect of the 60s, which this series actually put its finger right on.
You just fill in your race, religion, hobbies, what you like to read, what you like to eat, what you were, what you want to be, any family illnesses, any politics.
Note: prophecies and contemporary resonances in The Prisoner. Highly organized and sophisticated programs of systematic brainwashing. Use of hallucinatory drugs to obtain information. The village. Just look at Milton Keynes. Credit cards for money, leisure centers. Political systems which operate in increasingly concealed and all-powerful ways. Tampering with the mind.
I'm inadequate.
I'm inadequate.
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 Disharmonious.
Disharmonious.
I'm truly grateful.
I'm truly grateful.
Believe me.
Believe me.
Believe me. Believe me. Believe me.
Believe me.
Believe me. Believe me. Believe me. Believe me.
Need I say more? Let's proceed.
Progressed, and we got more into it. Being the man he is and being the person that I try to be, we put everything into it. All our time. In fact, we work 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, and try to make every episode really 1,000%. And eventually it became fairly obvious that we couldn't sustain this pace, the quality, in the time that was left, because we were running out of time, because the showing dates were fast approaching.
The first series of 13 episodes comes to an end. Britain always works in multiples of 13. A second season is considered impossible, but David Tomblin begins to work on a further 4 episodes, going for a 17-episode package which Lew Great can sell to the American networks. Story editor George Markstein leaves the series, unhappy with the way his initial intention have become McGowan's ideas. To allow McGowan to travel to the States to film Ice Station Zebra, one episode, Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling, is filmed without him at all. The final episodes begin.
It was an allegory An allegory, I think, is defined as a story in which things, people, places, happenings conceal a reason or a symbolism. And within that concept, I hope we were fairly true to it. I mean, one might say, was it too outrageous to have a Western story and a cowboy movie in the middle of the book? I don't think so at all, because after all, we introduced into it cardboard and hardboard cutouts of various characters, and they came back from their little meander into the six guns and the spurs of the cowboy story back to their numbers in the village.
Alexis Canard, wild character. Birmingham rep to the Royal Court of the Royal Shakespeare Company. Causes a stir in the BBC Softly, Softly as Constable Stone when he refuses to take it softly, softly, resigns or is given the push. Taken up by David Tomlin, gets the role as the kid in Living in Harmony. Wild character.
Pre-Beretta, pre-Columbo, and I quit, and the ratings went up to 20 million. We were trying to keep it quiet, but it made headlines, questions in the House of Commons, and then the next week after I was gone, it went back to 2 or 3 or 4 million. And after that, no longer after that came The Prisoner, and the difference between working in putty or plasticine in a kindergarten and doing the Sistine Chapel. I mean, it was not even in the same world, The Prisoner. The thing about The Prisoner really was that the absolute driving, rebellious, persuasive, trailblazing force of McGowan enabled us to do things that were many years ahead of their time on television, maybe still are, though I suspect they're becoming more and more relevant. That generation of kids out there now that have no tomorrow, well, what's the difference? There's nowhere to go because they're all going to end up the same way anyway. That kind of nihilism. The thing about Patrick is he loves challenge, he loves competition, and he loves there to be an edge on the set. He hates complacency. So it's quite within his character to send a telegram, which I received 2 weeks before we started filming Living in Harmony, saying, "I'm taking lessons from Sammy Davis Jr. and Steve McQueen on quick draw. Hope you live up to expectations. McGowan." Which made it incumbent upon me to go out and get a 45 Colt pacemaker and practice with the whole deal. And on the day we finally shot it, I'd gotten quite good at it. A lot of bets were being placed around the set among the crew and the stuntman and everybody as to who would outdraw who. But we were both so adept at that time, even though we both drew, only one shot was heard, though both guns went off. And it wasn't until the next day, when the film came back from the lab, that the editor was able to hold it up and count the frames and discovered that I'd got mine out and fired in 9, and Patrick had done his in 11 or 12, about a sixth of a second difference, and then everyone had to pay off. It was very typical of Patrick to do that kind of thing. The thing was in a continuous state of evolution, in a continuous state of flux. Patrick was writing on airplanes and in sets and in the middle of the night and just before the take even, right on the set. But when he had something set, he would hone it and it would stay set and remain precise that way for all takes.
Young man! Give it to me again.
Don't knock yourself out.
Give me the rest.
Young man.
I'm born all over.
All the 3 scripts that I wrote for The Prisoner, each one was done in about 36 hours. Once Upon a Time, I think I wrote straight down. I don't think I changed a word of that. It was sort of the property man, when he looked at it, he said, "What idiot wrote this?" You see, because there were 4 pages with nothing on it. There was Leo and there was me. We used to write the character of me, P, as for prisoner. It was Leo P, Leo P. And for all these pages, all they were saying was 6, 6, 6 of 1, 1 of 6, 6 over 1 into 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6 of 1 and a 1 and a dozen and 6, 6, 6. I don't blame the property master for saying, Mickey O'Toole, who was a wicked Irishman with a great sense of humour, said, "This rubbish here, whoever," because I didn't have my own name in it. The name I had on it when I sent it down onto the set, because I knew I would be ridiculed, was Once Upon a Time by Archibald Schwartz. So Mickey says, "This Archibald Schwartz, where did you find this guy?" He says, "To trust, he's a good lad, Mickey." I said, "Trust me."
This is it. For better or worse. Who knows? 1 week. 1 teeny-weeny week, my boy. Neither of us can leave. Till death do us part. Oh, don't move the right and leave the left asleep, boy. Hit me. Kill! 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 No! No! Kill! That's your boy. You can do it all, boy. You're the one-man band. You won't step over the threshold because you're scared. Go on, kill!
Note. Once Upon a Time clearly signals McGowan's thematic and formal ambitions for the series. Fairy tale, a malevolent Alice in Wonderland. But now there's a problem.
You must forgive us, but you see, we have a problem. Tell him our problem, Thorpe.
You resign, you disappear, you return. You spin a yarn that Hans Christian Andersen would reject for a fairy tale.
Finishing what began apparently as a more logical narrative. We are now into areas which, if they were thought about originally, certainly weren't talked about explicitly.
They loved it all. They were just all waiting for the ending, just as I was. I promised them there'd be an ending because Pat told me there'd be an ending. And I saw him on one occasion, and it was getting near the 17th episode, and I said, Pat, are you sure there's going to be an ending? He said, yes. And then he came to me at a later period and said, Lou, I just cannot find an ending. I've got too confused with the project. And I thought it was very nice of him to come straight out to me and admit it. And I told the networks, we have no ending.
Who was going to be number one? All right, well, I'll level with you on that. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that.
There was a lot of speculation about who was going to be number one, so that when the prisoner finally got upstairs and tore off the mask, in the end, who would number one turn out to be? Now, we knew it couldn't be an anticlimax. We knew, on the other hand, it couldn't be a climax. I mean, who could it really logically be so that we satisfy all these problems? Well, one day I turned to Pat and said, I know. You pull the mask off, and it's Lou Gray.
The first person that discovered that was after I dragged myself out of the office, and it was complete after its 36 hours childbirth thing, you know, a lot of labor. We had someone said we had the scripts run off very quickly, again, another thing. So I got a copy of this thing, and before I caught up a couple of hours sleep for working on Monday morning, I sat with David. We were having some tea or something, someplace, some tea room or something. I said, you better read this. And gave it to him. And I just sat at another table and sipped tea. Until he'd finished, then he gave it back to me. And he said, I thought it might be you in the end. There's nowhere else to go. Who could it be? You know? I wasn't going to ring up Shaw, or Roger, or any of these fellas. I mean, you know, who could it be? I don't know who it could be.
The ending, I think, was in style with the series.
So you can make up your own mind?
Well, I think in a strange way, it went back to conversations right at the beginning of the series. In fact, before it started, it may have been after the writing of the first episode, that obviously one needed a conclusion. And one needed to analyse the conclusion before you wrote the series, naturally. And we had a lot of conversations and discussed various possibilities. And over that period of time, all these things all went into the mental computer and came out at the other end, not quite as we discussed it, but sort of...
based on the embryo.
Yeah. So there was an idea. There was an idea before we started, but it wasn't that precise.
Absolutely extraordinary. I'd never worked on anything like that. Even playing strange Hamlets at the Royal Shakespeare for Peter Brook was nothing like Fallout. Fallout was an experience that took a long time to get over in every sense of the word. It was a great experience, working with a very brilliant man.
Problem. Several million viewers watched Fallout originally in 1968. Ambitious, confused, confusing, surreal. Fallout bursts upon the screens, rupturing the very institution of television and TV viewing. The result, predictably, is audience outrage.
Oh, the number one who turned out to be the number one in the end, there's been a lot of flack about that. I think I was fortunate ever to get out of England alive, because I imagine a lot of people watched the last episode and expected, I suppose, they could, a sort of conventional end of the evil person personified as the number one that we'd never seen, this mystery character that brooded over everything. What was he going to be like? Was he a Jekyll? No, not a Jekyll Hyde. No, I think they expected more a sort of James Bond villain at the end. And I think they felt that they'd been robbed with what they got. A lot did. Well, I would argue against that. I don't think they were robbed, because going back to the allegory, which is what it was, it had nothing to do, it was very difficult for people to understand that I was not John Drake. It's not a James Bond, right? So therefore, there are numbers in it, there are no names. You can't expect it to end like James Bond. So you have to have an allegorical ending. Now, if you pick the most evil, what is the most evil thing on earth? Is it jealousy? Is it hate? Is it revenge? Is it the bomb? What is it? When one really searches, it's under one thing. It's the evil part of oneself that one is constantly fighting until the moment of our demise. The Jekyll and Hyde, if you like, but on a much larger scale. So therefore, the most evil thing that I could put in there behind those masks, first of all the black and white mask, then the mask of the ape, and behind that the grinning evil face, I hope, of myself, just for a split second, and then you see it once more just for a split second, and I can't blame audiences saying, I wonder what's happening, what's going on. But they should please remember that it is an allegory, and in an allegory one has the liberty to do anything.
The pub would be empty, the landlord would be sitting in there, and I could hear the final the prisoner going on, and I'd say, it's me, and he used to say, pour yourself a beer, I'm watching this bloody rubbish you've been making. And he'd be sitting in there, and then gradually the village would come creaking back to life and would come into the pub, and 20 minutes later there would be the most almighty row going on in the public bar, where everybody yelling at me saying what a load of rubbish it was, and why do you watch the stuff then?
Not at all. No, of course I wasn't angry, not the least. I mean, I just had to go hide myself, that's all, in case I got killed. But I wasn't in the least angered, I was delighted. It's marvelous when people feel enough to be angry. Righteous indignation is terrific. And they're entitled to it. I'd be very, very angry and disappointed if they hadn't watched. If they hadn't jammed the switchboards at ATV, I would have been outraged. I would have slunk around for years with my tail between my legs, instead of which it was just terrific. Loved it. And if I can do that again, I'll do it again. God love them. Watch it. Millions of them. And be outraged. As long as people feel something. That's the great thing. It's when they're walking around not thinking and not feeling. That's tough. That's where all the dangerous stuff is, because when you get a mob like that, you can turn them into the sort of gang that Hitler had. We don't want that. We want people who say, hey, now wait a minute, you dare do that to me? I'm going to call Lord Great about that.
Who haven't I used? Goodman. Roger Goodman, coordinator of 6 of 1.
The Prisoner was really the only TV series of its kind, and within its own format, an adventure mystery series, the only program ever to explore areas of surrealism, art, mystery, enigma, pose the sort of questions you'd normally find only in the theatre or cinema, and then very avant-garde. It managed to do that all within a contemporary adventure series, which was a major revolution in 1967, and remains a major revolution now. It's always a bitter disappointment to me that television has never taken up the challenge that The Prisoner threw down. It threw down an enormous gauntlet of follow that. And the final episode of Fallout is quite breathtaking, and I am very disappointed that no television company or individual directors and producers have really attempted to follow The Prisoner.
I don't know what one can attribute its long life to. I think because, going back to the allegory, because everything is not explained. It can be seen, I hope, a second or a third time, and there are new meanings, because in an allegory, you can have a new meaning because within yourself you've had more experience in your life. You can go back to it and understand, I hope, interpret things a little differently. But the thing one must never do, which is in some way, I'll say this, in some ways, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, talking to you and to the people who are going to view it and hear it, to explain The Prisoner. I mean, I don't think that they'll understand it. Perhaps they won't understand it any better after this attempt at explaining it, because in myself, I am still getting new interpretations on it, and I feel fortunate that in parts of it I hit lucky, you know. So those ideas, I hope, you know, one can play with them forever. The sky's the limit, isn't it? I think the sky is the limit. Be seeing you, I hope.
Wipe it. Start again. I said wipe it! We still haven't got it. Wait. The package that came from LA this morning. Run it, now. All screens.
I am not a number. I am a free man.